In this section, we're going to cover classic hunting techniques. Aspects such as finding, tracking, hunting buffalo, as well as herds versus Dugga boys. You've got two main methods that are commonly used, spot and stalk versus tracking. Basically, these methods are dependent on the area and cover that you're hunting. In the Zimbabwe Valley, most of the areas that I hunt in, you're going to be doing a classic tracking technique. If you're in the Zambezi Delta, you're going to do the spot and stalk. Let's talk about the spot and stalk technique first. This is most commonly used in savanna, mountain, swamp areas, i.e. the Zambezi Delta is a good example. One thing you'll really need and rely on a lot on spot and stalk hunting is a good pair of optics. The difficulty with spot and stalk is trying to get close to the buffalo once you've spotted it. In the savannas, trying to work out if there's enough available cover so you can get close and try and get a shot at the shootable trophy. In the mountains, whether you're actually going to be able to get close enough to that buffalo. In the swamps, it's a totally different story. First of all, whether you'll be able to get to the buffalo itself due to the water that's around, because there's lots of that. Also, what cover's available. Sometimes there's absolutely no cover. Other times you've got 10 to 20 foot high papyrus, which is a big story there.
I want to take the 500, we're going to walk up quickly, he's lying down. Jumps up, you can pump him with that.
Lou's rifle did it again.
The next method of hunting buffalo we're going to discuss is actually my favorite. It's tracking buffalo. To me, this is considered the classic technique of hunting buffalo. This method we rely on mostly in Zimbabwe, especially the Zambezi Valley. Basically how this hunt all works, you leave camp, drive the roads looking for tracks or go check the water points, riverbeds. Once you've picked up a set of tracks, you try and assess how fresh these are, whether they're a day old, made last night, early morning. Once you've assessed that they're reasonably fresh and well worth going after, you load up the water bottles in the backpack and off you go.
Okay, it's early in the morning now, and Ben, there's a big herd of buffalo have crossed over here. I know this herd, and I know there's some nice bulls in there, so we're going to go and have a look and see if we can get lucky enough to see one in the open, and the one that we want. So let's go and see what we can find.
Good. You know, we track these buffalo in all kinds of places. We tracked them up in the hills. We went into the thick stuff. We tracked them in the river bottoms, and they went everywhere. Some places I couldn't believe that they could go. You know, over the course of 2 to 3 days, we followed these buffalo all over the place. And we actually wound up checking to see how far we'd walked, and we'd actually covered about 40 miles in those 2 or 3 days of following these things all over the place. So you've got to be in shape for this hunt. It's a real hunt, it's a challenging hunt, and that's what I enjoy about it, really. As usual, we left camp early and first light, and we hadn't gone too far down the road when we actually cut some tracks, and Lynn thought it'd be a good idea if we got out and followed those. In the course of following these buffalo, there were 2 or 3 times that we knew we were right next to them. We were probably within 30 to 40 yards of them. We couldn't see them, but we could hear them. We could hear them grunting a little bit, and we knew we were there. And I tell you, this stuff is thick. You don't know which direction they're in, so it gives you it notches it up another level.
The buffalo moving around some rolling hills, and which made it a little bit easier for us to get onto them. We maneuvered ourselves around and just kept looking for an opportunity and to find the one that was a reasonable trophy to take.
We're finally in a position where we think that I'm going to get a shot. So we crawled up, got in a position, and we could actually take a look, and we've spotted what we think is a pretty good bull.
In order for us to get a shot at this bull, we had to sneak across an open patch of ground. I put Ben on the shooting sticks, and then from there it was all up to him. He's to the right. Can you see him?
Yeah, I see him. I've got it. Now let's go.
Okay, take the shot. After Ben shot, the buffalo broke off from the herd, took off up the hill on its own. It was important for us to stick close to it. The buffalo hadn't gone far because it was a fairly good shot, but I asked Ben to put a few more rounds into him just to make sure.
Okay, come here. Okay, he's still standing up. Can you see him? Come again, come again. Come. No, he's gone. He's gone. Well, Ben, we started out early this morning. We got onto these tracks almost before light.
Right.
And we followed them for an hour or so before we caught up with them. And we were able to get around into a position to have a look at them and see what we could see. And sure enough, after about half an hour lying in the sun there, this guy stuck his head out, and I told you to take the shot if you could get a clean shot in. And yeah, and after that you took over and did a good job.
Well, yeah, you did a great job on getting us up to him, and very happy with this. Very nice buffalo. It's a great area, and that was a lot of fun. I'm very happy with him. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, good shooting.
Thank you, guys.
What makes a buffalo move great distances or hold up in an area, it depends really on a few certain factors. The availability of water and food, predator pressure, available cover, whether he feels secure in the habitat that he's found. You never know when you're going to catch up to him. I mean, all the time you're expecting to come around the next bush and there he is. So you've always got to be alert and on the ready for these things. The other thing that may affect the tracking is the actual number of animals you're tracking. If you're tracking a lone Dugga boy, and for instance he's got lots of food and water and thick cover close by, it could be a relatively short tracking experience. Whereas if you're tracking a fairly large herd that's been pressurized by hunters or lions, you could be tracking for several hours before you catch up to those buffalo. One of the guys you'll rely very heavily on a tracking hunt is the actual tracker or trackers. The tracker, his job is to track the buffalo and find them. The trackers have grown up mostly in the bush and they have a very keen sense and perception of the quarry that they are normally following. They have very good eyesight and exceptional hearing, and they are normally in the front, so they actually get to spot the buffalo before we do. The magic of watching a good tracker follow the tracks of a buffalo is often the most memorable part of any safari.
We're hunting in a huge area and it's very thick cover. You can't possibly just wander out and find the Cape buffalo. So what we do is we drive on some of the very few dirt roads that are around here, looking to see where the Cape buffalo have crossed. While we're driving down these dirt roads, there's 3 trackers and a game scout on top of the truck looking ahead. And they find things that you just can't imagine. Little tiny hoof prints. They tap on the top of the truck and we stop and we get out. It takes me a minute to even find the footprint, but they saw it from a moving vehicle. They're incredible.
Not a very big herd. It looks like a bull track there. So let's give it a go.
Good. Get an early start today. Sometimes when we found the tracks and we knew it was a herd we wanted to follow, we'd still drive entirely around that block. Now keep in mind, even the small of these blocks is probably 20 square miles. So you don't want to just wander into it if you can go around and see if the buffalo kept going and crossed into the next one. If they didn't, you've got good news, you know where they are. And bad news, it's probably 20 square miles you got to go look in now. While following the tracks of the buffalo, we came across a fresh lion kill. It was a calf, and all that was left was the head, a little bit of fur, and the 2 forelegs. After we saw the lion kill, we didn't know whether the lions were busy pursuing the buffalo herd right then, driving them further away, or what they would do. And then we heard the lions come in and get the remains, only 25 yards from us. They were in there right as soon as we left, so they'd probably been watching us the whole time. So on the belief that they would sit there and chew for a little bit, we got going right away, and we're pretty sure we're in between the lions and the buffalo herd. That's the good news. The bad news is they scared the dickens out of the buffalo, and the buffalo are really moving, and we're having a tough time getting caught up to them. Looks like the buffalo bedded down here. We finally caught up to where they spent the night. That's big progress after 3 days of this. For once, the wind was in our favor. We knew where they were going, and we could actually plan our approach. It wasn't long before we heard one of the cows bellow, and then the hunt was on. Behind him. Oh, she's going down. She's going down the ravine. Okay.
Shoot it again. They come. Yeah.
I think he was right here when he was shot. Unmistakable.
Now look at him, he's got a bit of wear. I mean, this guy. Full of scars, battle scars.
Yeah, look at this one. Well, he's got them all up and down here where he's been fighting with his buddies. Long scars here. Clint, thanks for a great hunt. This is my first buffalo, and I couldn't be more pleased and excited about the whole thing. But what a hunt.
Mike?
Hey, the rifle and the bullet performed very well too. It entered on his left shoulder, and we shot a DGS Hornady 300 grain solid in Ruger 375, and it came right through the shoulder here, so it cleared his entire body, and boy, I don't think he ran even 50 yards, maybe. Thanks again for a great hunt.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
All right.
A trophy buffalo bull can be found either in large herds with a couple of other Dugga boys or bachelor bulls, or even by himself. During the breeding season, a trophy bull will either generally be found amongst a herd or following closely behind. Once the breeding season ends, many of the mature bulls will leave the pressure of the herds and pair up with a group of bulls or travel by himself. There's a slight difference when tracking a herd or tracking a Dugga boy. For instance, when you're tracking a herd, there's several different animals in that group, and you're not following a single track, you're just following a massive track. So the trackers can pass through quite quickly and you generally catch the herd fairly quick. When you're tracking a herd, it's normally the sound of them moving through the brush or them bellowing that gives them away and lets you know that you're getting close. The cows and calves are very vocal and call to each other, or maybe a grumpy bull tossing another bull out the way, or there's a lot of noise that a herd makes as they move through an area. When you're tracking a Dugga boy, this is generally done at a much slower pace, as there's normally one, maybe two animals if you're lucky. It's also a lot thicker cover, so it's a lot harder to pick out a clear track, and it is done at a very, very slow pace, especially seeing as the Dugga boys are normally old and very wary and always on the alert. Generally, when tracking a Dugga boy, your first contact with him will be visual. He's going to be very close, so make sure that you're close to your PH and quiet at all times.
One of the cab vehicles got some buffalo tracks around lunchtime. They look pretty fresh, so we're gonna follow those and see where they lead. Hopefully to some fresh buffalo.
Shoot him again. On the shoulder.
Come and check him. Come.
Good stuff. Good stuff, man. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's a fantastic trophy. I'm just so pleased with it. You know, what I lacked in skill, the Ruger rifle and the Hornady ammunition and the Trijicon scope made up for. I hit it a little high, but did enough damage to bring it down eventually. It took us a while, but he came down, and it's a wonderful trophy. Nice big boss. Craig says look for an old bull with a big boss, a nice drop, and doesn't have to be the biggest in Africa, but it's just a good representation of Cape Buffalo, and I just couldn't be happier with this. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, well done, and very, very well done on keeping up with us for 6 days. Well done, Tom.
Once you have made contact with the buffalo, the final approach will again vary depending on if the buffalo is a Dugga boy or in a herd. If you are hunting Dugga boys, it will be generally spotted at close range, which is often within shooting range. The bull has often become aware of your presence at this point. You must be very quiet and move as little as possible while getting into shooting position. Your PH will quickly assess your trophy at this stage, and you must be in position to shoot if he gives you the green light. If you are tracking the herd of buffalo, you should hear them some distance before you see them. At this point, checking the wind is the first step. Your trackers will then slowly approach the sound of the herd with the wind in your face, constantly checking the fickle wind. When approaching a herd, you initially approach from the rear. Once visual contact is made, you then begin glassing, looking for a trophy. Often the bull you want will not be visible on the initial contact. At this stage, you'll begin a series of contacts, keeping out of sight and with the wind in a favorable direction. Ideally, you want to catch the buffalo early enough that they are slowly feeding. This is when the buffalo are most vulnerable. If the wind allows, you will try to get ahead of the herd and assess them as they feed by. If the herd is already lying down, then there's generally no option to approach, as there's many eyes looking in all directions. So the best option is just to back off and give them time and wait till they get up and start feeding again.